Gentlemen, welcome to the Madison County Board of Education regular session that includes an open forum this evening for June 21st, 2018 at 5:15 p.m. Mr. Weiss, would you be so kind as to lead us in prayer before we begin?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet in this forum this evening to we ask that you provide us guidance and wisdom to make the right decisions for our students, our faculty, our staff, and our communities. We ask this in your name. Amen.
All right, I guess I'll have a couple updates before
Yes.
we go with the
And then we'll do
recommendation of the
open
agenda.
forum announcement.
And then, let me do the open forum announcement after the agenda?
No, we'll do it right before. We'll just
Okay.
make
All
sure
right.
that
Very
nobody
good.
has shown up.
So just a couple quick updates. We had it's conference season. Our school resource officers have had their conference, and they are trained and ready to go. And are y'all? Everybody made it back safely?
He said he's 10.
Very good. And our class conference, a lot of our administrators went to, and last week we had our AASB School Board Conference, and 100% attendance at all the sessions, except when Dave had to step out for one moment there, but,
That would be you?
no, Dave.
Oh, Dave, yeah.
The funny thing was, not to interrupt you, but I went and talked to Sally Salter after the conference was over, and she said, yeah, we were all standing in the back of the room waiting to see if you were even there, and they saw me stand up and walk right out.
It's like a walk of shame.
Mr.
Teams there. So
would you like to tell why
Dave's
you
car
were
got
standing
hit
up?
in the parking lot during the conference. So he's the one with the tail light damage in the
Well,
back.
that.
But it was a really good conference, and we had it was a good learning experience for all of us. And I'm really excited about next week. Our principals, we're taking our principals on a PLC conference, professional learning communities, and I'd actually like to do a little bit of what are professional learning communities with you guys at some point, maybe as an informational time or just kind of a sit-down discussion and really what this is about, because this really is. We started this effort last year, and it really is the direction that we want to go. I presented on this at Jackson County's Board of Education, or at their administrators conference that they had last week, and it's incredibly dynamic. So I'd love to kind of take about maybe 20 or 30 minutes on one of our work sessions to kind of go over that with you guys and talk about what this is going to mean by the way we expect our students to learn. So that's an exciting thing that we're going through there too. So that said, I recommend approval of the agenda for June 21.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, question?
I was going to see if we could add just a short discussion about some of the ideas going on with Sparkman's renovation.
All right, as President or anyone else have any problems adding that to the agenda?
Have those projects been approved? from
Not specifically. So we are still waiting on, we have sent a request to the plaintiffs to do the work. They're going to let us know as soon as possible when we can start, and once we get the green light, especially concerning Sparkman, because there's some different things that we can do there. We'll definitely bring it back to you guys and make sure everybody's on board with what we got
I
going
have
on.
a conference call with them on Tuesday of next week, and they're supposed to give me some feedback then. I don't know that it will be complete.
But we do have the green light from the bond people.
Yes.
We can
Yeah.
move ahead.
We do.
Have Angie, Mary Louise, and Nathan had a chance to see? Okay,
Have call time out, but if
Sure.
y'all want to discuss that, then we can add it as a.
Okay, that's fine.
This is what we can discuss, I
That's
think,
fine.
if y'all are okay with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of.
I'll
what-
add that, yeah.
So we have a motion to amend the motion to include item D under discussion items to have a discussion regarding where we're headed, I think, with the Sparkman
We'll do
plan.
that. So I'll put that as item 3D, so a discussion of the Sparkman renovations.
Is there any further discussion or question about the agenda and the addition of that one item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, tonight is our open forum. I see that sorry. Do you want to amend the minutes first?
Yes, I'm sorry. All right, I'll recommend approval of the amendment of the May 2017 and October 2017 minutes.
17?
2017. So in May, we didn't make note of our whole board training,
Gotcha.
And on October, part of the minutes left out, the vote that we made on a settlement. So,
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, on the one about the settlement, so, like, none of the language, like it says, following the board's return, the board voted on the expulsions, and yet now we have the settlement, so that language still needs to be updated, I think. And then at the beginning of the executive session, there was no mention of the settlement, but that might have actually, it may not have been.
well, I didn't think, yeah, that is correct, because coming out from executive session, we may not have reached an.
We may not know
offer.
we were gonna do that.
That is correct, because it was kind of up in the, yeah, at that point, it was kind of hearing what plaintiffs were offering and deciding what the board wanted. So there may not, we could have come out and not made a vote on But I
agree
think
with
it
Ms.
was on the
Rucker.
agenda, though.
The top of this last page, it should say voted on the expulsions and settlement agreement. And you could say as follows, or however you want.
You
I would
recommend putting
suggest
that in there?
I would suggest that edit. I
Okay,
believe
so
she is correct.
you want to explain that one more time, Cindy?
So at the top of the last page
Oh,
of the minute draft where the votes are, it would say, following the board's return from executive session, the board voted on the expulsions and settlement agreement. And then you have the 1, 2, 3 bulleted items.
Voted on the expulsions and settlement agreement. I see it on page 7 of 8. There, just below other business.
Okay.
All right? Yeah, so I have it in there.
Is there any further discussion, question, or recommendations? So, there's a motion to approve the minutes with, approve amendment to the minutes with the addition of.
The language to say including the
Settlement
settlement
agreement.
agreement.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, now,
Now
Chelsea
we have,
Forum.
this evening is our open board meeting, which means that anyone who would like to get up and speak and has signed in has the opportunity to do so without the 72-hour notice. Is there anyone in the room who signed up?
Can I ask, why do we do this in the summer when it's very unlikely
Well,
everybody would be here?
so the reason this law was passed was because many boards do not allow for public comments at their meetings. You don't have to do it. And so they actually passed a law, said you've got at least one time a year, let people talk. So we never really had a big demand because we let people talk at every meeting and every work session we have. And so it's kind of get to the end of the year and go, yeah, we technically haven't had our open forum, but you can have open forums
I think it'd
every
make
other
more-
month.
I think it'd
or-
make more sense to have it when people are kind of more engaged. I mean, people really just don't want to think about it in the summer.
But what happened, there are some boards that do not allow for comments, because they're like, hey, we're not here to hear from the folks, we're here to do our business, school business. And so it just has never, if somebody wanted to speak tonight, could have sent us an email and we'd put them on to speak, so. But I'm okay with making it any time of the year y'all want to. We can have 2 or 3 or 4 a year.
Well,
I
we
believe-
once had it in May, and that was very problematic because of, the amount of personnel and people, coming to speak about personnel. And, if they made less than, I think it was, I don't know what it was then, but $75,000 a year, then you've got to go into executive session for that to be heard. So I think that's the reason we slid it to June, just not
You
to
do it
deal.
like maybe November, or sometime when people.
Well, a long time ago, back in the dark ages, we had 2, one in May and one in November, right?
Dark ages.
Any of you dark age people? And I noticed that Gina moved over to the side for fear that she would be singled out as supposed to speak.
Your policy, years and years and years ago, Mr. Evans may remember, I don't remember why it was this way, and it may have been this way when I started, was that you had this meeting in May. The statute just requires you to have it annually. So if you extend it from May to November, in that year, you'd need to have 2, so that if you change the timing of it just in the fall, you'd need to have 2 that year to make sure you didn't have more than a year gap. But That's,
is
you're right
too
about the
bad?
sliding to June.
I mean, is
That's
having
probably
it like
it.
again in October and March, is that not, is that a bad thing? I don't know.
No, it's not
Tell
a
me.
bad thing, and we've had turnout in June, and we've had none in other times when we've had town halls. I don't know that there's a good time of year always to get people engaged. It's very difficult when we've had meetings like this at the beginning of the school year. There doesn't seem to be as much, because then you've got all the beginning of the school. There's always a reason that
I think
it
October and
is
March are pretty
difficult
good, they're
to.
kind of in the middle, so if something's going on, it seems like that would be kind of an opportune time for somebody to say something.
Certainly something to think about for next year.
Yeah, and we can always have one again, I mean, you guys can request one. It doesn't, nothing keeps us from having another one. The only thing that is important is to make sure that we have documented at least one yearly.
I mean, I think it's a credit to you guys, because people are engaged, and then they come and speak. I just pulled up our YouTube channel. We got 14 people viewing right now. So, I mean, just the way that we operate and where folks can kind of feel like they can take part in things is, it doesn't mean that nobody's watching just because they're not sitting here. So, hey, all you YouTubers there, so. But I do think you guys do a good job of letting folks, of establishing that, because there are boards that don't allow speakers.
And there's not, I mean, I think we can bring it back up again in the future.
In the fall, maybe.
I know Mr. Curry has suggested having board meetings at alternative sites. You could always do those once a quarter and make those open so that that area gets the opportunity. I mean, we could look at some alternative ideas to this one. But for this evening, ain't nobody here, right? So we're going to go on to the next thing.
All right. So discussion item 1A, Ms. Rucker requested just a discussion on general funding. Karen's got some information to, do you have some information to share on financials?
Questions? On our
Or just on any updates? Our revenues looking okay?
No, we'll have our.
No, they're not?
No, you said no.
Yes, sir.
There are.
We're on budget, but we are not, I wasn't prepared to talk about a financial statement tonight, but I can. I mean,
Okay.
there's really nothing unusual for non-routine to report. We're in the process of closing May, because we had a budget amendment that we'd like for you to approve tonight. We didn't submit a financial statement. But now, as we talk about, I think Ms. Rucker requested that we discuss other revenue sources.
I mean, my point was,
Revenue streams, but if that's, I'm just here to offer, answer questions if there's any questions.
my point was trying to address, you know, we're 114th out of 136, so what can the board do about that? Because we obviously need more, I mean, to me, we obviously need more money, specifically for the security needs and for the infrastructure that's going to come up after we get done spending this $42 million. We're not going to have necessarily funds to address some of the other needs that are going to come up before we can renegotiate debt, or our debt rolls off and we can do something else. So that was where I was coming from. So what are our options, and do we want to pursue any of them?
Well, boards can't obviously raise revenue, but we can bring, options would be a sales tax if the commission voted on it, or a property tax, that, and they're countywide property tax or district property taxes. So it's kind of, there's a process of getting those on the ballot that we could do that. And it can be a special election, a primary election, or a general, or as we saw, a special election with our last renewal.
Right, so we renewed them in November, so that's why we haven't done anything up to this point, because we didn't want to jeopardize the renewal. So now that that's taken place, it passed with 70%. And according to that tax memorandum that was written up in conjunction with the renewals, there's another 5 mills that can just be put on the ballot. So do we want to pursue that? And it would only have to pass with a majority, which the renewals passed with 70%, so.
Well, I think one thing you would have to look at is the renewal took several entities. We had, and I think we'd have to be willing, and I'm not saying we're not, but I think the first step would be creating a plan for how to engage those people again. Because it's basically a large campaign that took a lot of money to do. It required donations through the school's foundation in order to allow for marketing to be completed. And there is a fee for the attorney's fees just to check all the bonds and write the valid language. So I think we'd have to, I don't disagree that we do need to try to find a way to create a new funding source, but it is bigger than just putting it on the ballot. I think the bigger issue is not so much getting it to the ballot as the campaign that it takes in order to, what we were just talking about, engage the community as well as our local businesses and our other local foundations that support schools. The tax renewal was done with the Committee 100, the Chamber of Commerce, the Schools Foundation, several other large businesses that are local and wanted to support, as well as some individuals. So,
Do we know how much money was spent on it?
I do not know exactly. I know that our board spent $33,000, and that was just to pay the portion of our attorney's fees to do the bond.
That's all the cost we had.
Right, that we've had, but that campaign was not without cost. That was just the only cost that was incurred by the board. So I think what
That
we'd
was
have to do
shared.
is come up with a
That was
comprehensive.
shared among the three school systems. That was our part.
Yeah.
Right, the total was closer to 100,000. We split
Yes,
it
ma'am.
3 ways between the 3 systems, but that was only to get the wording, to ensure that we had the wording correct on the ballot. So,
It was all the legal work. I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
yes, but that was just a layer.
Mr. Sanderson.
Correct.
The bills
Posting.
came from them.
Above that, you also, or intermingled with that, whatever you want to look at it, there was a large campaign to do the marketing and to do the grassroots that you needed to do to engage the community. And unfortunately, marketing is not free either. So I think we'd have to really sit down and have a more of a comprehensive engagement of some of those other areas, because it's not just Madison County. We'll have to work with Huntsville City and Madison City as well, because they're.
We wouldn't
they're-
work with Huntsville
Ms.
City.
Ms.
Yeah.
Bates and Ms. Rucker, that 5 mil that I believe you're referring to was in Woody Sanderson's memo, giving us the
Exactly.
history of
Yeah.
all the ad valorem taxes.
That 90-page.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you were
And
talking
so the 5 mil, I didn't know it was out there. According to him, it's already been amended by the state constitution, so we wouldn't have to jump through that hoop.
Right, you wouldn't have
But
to
we
go
would not
legislate.
be able to do this because it affects Madison City schools.
So we'd-
The
Well,
5 mil
well,
is joint with them. It's for that district.
So a new district got created, did it not?
Yeah.
District 3?
Mhm.
So now
So-
District 1, which is what that was approved for, is that not just us now?
Well, you'd
the
have to
question-
ask.
The question would be whether or not you could even use this 5 mils, because at the time.
At the time,
The amendment
it
was
was
passed, it
combined.
was 2 school systems.
So
and
I don't
now
know. We
they're-
would-
Now they're considered school district 3.
It would require some
So-
research from our bond attorney in order to do it, because at the time, we were with partners with them.
I think
I
so.
don't
School
know.
District 1 is just us.
I don't know.
Now
that.
It is
you,
now,
at the
but
time
then
this
it was-
passed, It was you and Madison.
City.
Yeah,
So
so
we
you're
need-
correct, not Huntsville City, but it would take.
It may not take anybody but us. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends how you.
Right.
How you interpret the law, I guess.
Well, I
What-
guess we
Well-
need, if this is something we want to pursue, then we probably need to get Tom to take a look at it to
I
see.
haven't submitted anything to Tom because, it costs the school system for research, and I wanted to make sure what we're doing, where we're going tonight with our discussion. But he would need to review this section. He's not familiar with it. I know that because the only one that he's familiar with that we already have authorization from the state constitutional amendment is the 3 mil. And we can put on a 3 mil, and then you come back and jump through the different hoops.
Yeah.
I've got the step-by-step instructions if we want to increase that. But the problem with that is trying to go to the voters twice,
You have to do
First you
3
get
and
your
then the
3
next.
mil approved, and then your, so he's not familiar with this particular 5 mil, and I have not submitted anything, but he would need to take a look at it and see.
So would
see
you
what
like
we're
us to
able
give
do.
direction to have Mr. Francis first just tell us whether or not that 5 mil is even possible with, and does it include
just
or
us,
exclude
yes.
Madison
Yeah.
City?
I think it's well
The
worth
3
it.
mil, is that just for District 1, or is that, would have that same issue about whether it's Madison?
No, I think that that one is for, I remember, we voted on that one in 2004, and it fell miserably. But the 3 mil tax, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same as the 5 mil. It would be
It's
District
District
1
1.
as well.
Yeah.
So that's the last time we had a
Yes, sir.
It might,
Two-
it
2004.
might not be
Yeah.
now, since they've separated them. That's another
That's
question
another
for
thing you
Tom.
would need to research, but it
But-
would work the same way as the 5 mil. He's just not familiar with the 5 mil.
Okay, well,
But if you're going to ask him about the 5, I'd go ahead and ask
Ask
him.
about the
Because
three.
what you find in these constitutional amendments is some nuances in the language at times where they're written a little bit different.
are,
And
yes.
so I would ask him about both if
I
you're
think
going to
it's
ask him.
well worth the effort to ask.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I don't disagree. And I don't disagree that it's not worth the effort to move forward.
Yep.
I just want to point out that I know the tax renewal went very smoothly, but that was done with a 45-person group of people who
Yeah.
worked very hard, and so it wasn't a 5-man group. And it wasn't it was.
but how did
so-
that trickle down to the voter?
So,
I'm not sure it really did.
the Schools Foundation coordinated and did a lot of fundraising, and got tied in business, nonprofits, and all the systems, board members, superintendents, attorneys, all together. And, so I think we need to obviously use their strengths if we're looking at this. I think things to consider are, we get twice as much off of a countywide meal than we do off of our district meal. So would the other systems be up to do it countywide? Obviously, that would help us, because 5 meals countywide is twice as much as 5 meals.
But I think
in our
the
district.
problem is they already have 27 meals, and we're down at 16. So if we all keep going, I mean, I'm just not sure that makes any sense. We need to bring ours up.
To be
I
on
got you.
par.
But if we raised ours 10, that's equal than going 5 countywide. Then, yeah, there will still be a gap. but-
There'll always be a gap, because they've got all the businesses.
That's right.
Huntsville does.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
do-
if, it's kind of, I just think that's something to consider if we have partners in it. And
I think it's just polite to approach them as the other school districts and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about. I think as a three-legged system that has to keep Madison County as a whole strong, I think if we're going to move forward with this, we do need to do the diligence of saying, hey, this is where we're going. What are y'all's thoughts on it? I think they deserve to have input.
Because even if we equalize our meals and we were 27, it's still not equal, because of, our when our renewal, our 4-meal countywide and 4-meal district-wide was, our 4-meal district-wide generated $4 million a year, our 4-meal countywide generated $7.5 million a year. So if they're willing to play ball countywide, that would be something to maybe look at. You know what I'm
As
saying?
well.
So 3 countywide's more than 5 our district. Does that make sense?
But I think our
Well, I know
first
that,
step is to have
but-
Mr. Francis clarify exactly what District 1 would be in relationship to that amendment, being that District 1 is now not the same as it was, and there is another district.
And this is obviously a long process, because, we try to look at getting it on that first time around, the renewal, the
Mhm.
first time on that Senate election, and we couldn't, in August, and we couldn't get it on until, we couldn't get it on the runoff, had to wait until November.
We have time to get it on in November. I'm not saying that that's the prudent thing to do, but there's time. Sitting
Yeah.
here today, there's time.
So I think so we'll look at,
That's what you
Mr.
want me
Francis.
to do.
Yeah.
I think it's worthy.
For the research, but he'd be glad to
Yeah, I
look at it.
think
I
it's-
think it's important.
I think someone from the board may need to reach out to Elizabeth, or I can try to set that up. Fleming, I think we're gonna need more, it needs to be more than just,
We
Well,
kind of need to
and-
know how much they already spent.
We have to start engaging our communities. If we are going to try to get any kind of new revenue stream, we have to begin to engage every one of our school districts to try to get the parent support that we need, because there's no way the 5 of us sitting here can do that. We have to sell our story, which is, we don't really have enough to offer our children what they deserve. And a lot of the people who vote on these things don't have children in school. I just tell them, let me be sure they're taken care of, going to be taking care of you in the nursing home, So, but it's got to take community engagement. And even if we were going for the half cent, it's going to have to be parents going to the commission every meeting, talking about what we need in Madison County. And every school district in Madison County would benefit. But that's how things change, not from us, but from our parents.
I definitely think it's worth getting Tom's opinion on this.
Oh, and we have to do that.
I'm not, and I think we need to do it, so don't misconstrue my comments. I'm just concerned about rushing it too quickly to get it on the ballot in November and not getting the message out appropriately to our communities and to the stakeholders, and having it fail, because if it fails, then we're probably setting ourselves back another decade plus of not being able to do it again. So I think we absolutely need to move forward and look at it. I just don't know if trying to squeeze it onto the ballot in November is a prudent path because it doesn't give us a whole lot of time to engage the communities, to come up with a plan, to market it, to strategize it, to get it out to the communities. It's a tougher sell. It's a tougher sell than the renewal. A renewal was an easy sell because I shouldn't say easy sell, but it was a different sell because you're not asking anybody to pay any more money. You're just asking people to just continue to pay what they're paying today, tomorrow. We're going to be changing that tune, and we're going to say, okay, well, now that you've given us back what we need, now we're going to ask you to pay a little bit more. And I think that changes the tone and tenor of how we sell it, how we market it, and how we engage our communities. And I'm just not too sure we can get there by November.
Well, and
But-
November's a general election, and there's some people who believe that that's the worst time to take a tax referendum to the public. That had kind of changed a little bit when we did the December vote, but that was just a special election. It wasn't a general election.
But definitely we need to move, I think we need to move
Oh, we
forward.
absolutely
Like this general election, I think the governor's race is gonna bring out both
Bipartisan.
parties pretty strong. I mean, the Democrat Party, I think.
Yeah,
We're
certainly has-
depending on the Democrats to carry that, right?
I would agree
Carry
with
that
you on
vote.
that.
Because you know the Republicans aren't going to vote for it.
Well, I think
Well, no,
prudent,
I don't-
I think
Some
prudent
of them
people
will.
will vote for it
Yeah,
regardless of whether your
absolutely.
party.
I think what we've agreed tonight is that we would like to give
See
you,
what
move
5 and
forward with
3,
finding
right.
out what
Yeah.
Mr. Francis thinks that
Absolutely.
would be, and then we can set up,
Based on that.
I can get in touch with Ms. Fleming and perhaps set up a couple meetings to let us start talking about how she feels that would look, because she did do an excellent job with the tax renewal. She kind of led that marketing part, and so I think she's a very good person to speak with to get started. And if it ends up that November is it, and we, get on it, or if she, that we can discuss it
We've had many strategy
further.
meetings before.
Who
We
would
did.
bear the
Yeah.
cost of putting it on the ballot?
I believe you're looking at them.
That's my point. And do we even know what the
Does the
cost?
county-
The commission.
The commission?
So you're limited on legally you're limited on what you can pay.
Yeah.
What the urgency is, I mean, that tax increase would help pay for SROs, it would help pay for the
No
mental
question.
health
Yeah,
issues.
No
that we
question.
need. I mean, there's not like, well, let's just get it done when we can get it done. I mean, there is a sense of urgency about it. You might be talking about somebody's life.
No, I don't disagree. I just don't, I
No.
don't want to squander an opportunity by rushing forward to do something and not have had a chance to plan it out
Strategize.
and strategize effectively.
You have
I
one
mean,
shot.
July, August, September, October, we've only got 4 months.
Well, yeah, but last year, this time, when we were doing the renewals, we were still debating on which ballot we were gonna get on. So, I mean, we're at the same place we were last year, except now it's not a renewal. And we got it done, and we got it passed with 70%, so to
A
me, it's not.
renewal and a new tax are totally different.
The way of getting your message out, you think that's gonna be different?
It'll change a
It'll
little
It'll
bit.
change.
Require a lot more.
Because you do use a little
more
different
involved for a
strategy.
new tax. I'm not disagreeing with, I'm not saying November is a bad time or anything like that. You really can't compare it to a renewal.
Now,
As far as the
what
time
year
frame.
did you say? 2000, but
2004.
that was Riley, that was statewide, right? That was not our
No,
local.
ma'am, that was local. That was when Mr. Smith was here, and we did a campaign, or he did a campaign.
Was that 2004?
Yes, ma'am. It was in the spring of 2004, I think it was April. Because
Oh,
he
I
retired in
remember.
October, that's when I came in. And so
That's 14 years ago. I mean,
they
the
worked
county's-
on that for, I know, a long time. I was around doing the audit, but I don't know how long it took. I don't know their strategy or anything. But that's the last time it was on the ballot, and that was the free meal tax. It failed miserably, free meal, countywide. I know there were certain pockets where it had some support.
Unfortunately, I was here also, and it
You're old.
was, we went to every high school, held meetings. We did the review. We actually hired a company, well, it was pro bono out of Michigan, a company that guaranteed we could get any tax passed. And they came in here and they pay, remember, they pay for a lot of information and distribute thing. We sent stuff home with every student. We held meetings in every high school, and it still failed miserably. And even at the high school meetings, if we had 5 people show up, that was a lot, other than just the school staff that was there. And I think it's because they had the word tax.
To me, the way you sell it is on safety. I mean, you turn on the news and you hear what's happening. You don't want that happening here. So what can you do to prevent it? I mean, I think that's the way you would sell it, because that's truly the need.
Well, I think, though, it could also be a false assumption, though, if you raise taxes, it's going to make your schools safe enough where an accident won't occur.
No, but you trying to do everything you could to
Sure,
prevent.
sure.
And the mental health aspect of this is, I mean, that costs a lot of money to put social workers and counselors in your schools.
Well, I think we can discuss strategy as we move forward, but I think right now we'll set up a meeting with Ms. Fleming, and then we'll also ask Mr. Francis to please clarify what that amendment, or what that constitutional amendment would mean to us.
All right. Moving on to the next item, we're just bringing up the school calendar one more time to kind of update you from the discussions with some of the folks in AEA, that we're listening to some of the teachers and their input. You know, we start school really early this year coming back, and so that was one of the main things, was to move that back, especially when teachers come back. The original calendar had teachers coming back on the, I think maybe the 25th, the first draft I brought to you. So this pushes it back to the 31st. We had 6 days up front, so this has it. Well, it's not for recommending, but to get your feedback. It's up there too, but it would be in discussion items if you want to bring it up on your computer.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So just kind of want to let you know the feedback that we got from them, and I was going to see what suggestions you have. So just a couple things about this. There's 5 days in front of professional development. We had 6 up there in the first time we brought it to you. Students starting on Wednesday the 7th. I talked with some kindergarten teachers about how important, we kind of started on Wednesday because of our phase-in with kindergarten, and kind of got some, it's almost like they almost need a longer phase-in. I mean, they got kids that are coming there, that are there all day, and it made me have a new amount of respect for our kindergarten teachers, having to deal with kids, and their parents have some stress about leaving them up there too. But it's just, so starting them on Wednesday, what they do is they bring them back in thirds, and so the teacher can just speak a lot of, so we thought about moving that day, but I decided to keep it yellow is that first start day. Still 1 full week of October fall break, 1 full week of November Thanksgiving break, but when we moved one of the PD days from the beginning of the year to teachers to the Monday of Thanksgiving break. So that would be a work day for our teachers, work day, staff development day. So those are kind of there was some minor tinkering with that. So, but I wanted to bring that back to you guys. Some of the special holidays that we take MLK Day in January, and in February we have President's Day. We thought about making President's Day a work day that we could have if we didn't want to take the Monday of Thanksgiving. But
We'll have to check, there's a state statute on certain holidays that you're required to
Oh,
have.
okay, for presidents
And I
maybe.
can't recall if President's Day is on that or not.
Got you.
So have we put this draft back through the folks, the teachers in
This
the-
is what we got kind of from them.
Okay, so but they haven't seen the changes, they just
This
have
was the
made some of
changes they
these
recommended.
suggested. Okay.
So this is after coming back from them, now cycling it back to you guys for.
So this is what the teachers would prefer to be able to, and
Yeah.
Is this a
I don't mean
specific
that
teacher or
flippantly.
AEA?
Well, it
recommendation?
was, so you're taking input from several folks,
Mhm.
and they share it with their friends, and kind of, they'll have a whole list of different comments. Some just write down everything somebody says, but the general theme was, we want to start later. There was one teacher in particular that didn't want to do the Thanksgiving week. One recommended not doing a fall break week, maybe do a 2 or 3 day fall break. The November full week to me is more important than the October fall break full week, and that's for students because one of our accountability measures is attendance, and the the 3 most missed days of the school year is the Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving and Take Your Child to Work Day. And so we're going to try to kind of come up with some other strategies on that, but
So can we make Take Your Child to Work Day a professional development day and all the teachers bring their children?
we might do that, and then all the teachers are going to bring their kids to work. We thought about making that an e-learning day, honestly. I mean, I had a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce that day, and I'm like, what? Is there a field trip up here? And by gosh, everybody took their child up to the chamber. Anyway, that's a great experience for those kids, I'm sure. But it makes it really hard because it's hard to have school when 30% of your students are gone. And we spend about, I think, calculating about $700,000 a day to run our school system. And if we can do some professional learning or other alternative learning styles, that we may look at that for our Take Your Child to Work Day. It's always on a Thursday, so it's kind of awkward to kind of do that. But we want to have, so anyway.
When you said this was vetted through the teachers, I mean, did you send this out to all the teachers, or did
No.
you send it out through AEA and they?
Yeah, Mark, was it you or Ken?
I met with the policy review group.
Policy Review Committee, yeah.
But that's different now, right? It goes to the AEA people rather than to the old policy advisory, right?
How does policy review work?
The president of AEA, the president of BESBO, we meet to discuss, and then they take that information back to their members, get feedback.
And those members are a pretty good cross-section of the people who work in the school system here?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Now, again, I didn't follow it, so I don't know how far the document went, how much they shared, but that's just kind of part of their.
But that group has elected these people that you met with as their representative to be able to.
One comment that was made is that there's too much professional development before school starts. Like, you don't have time to really think about what you've learned because you're in the crux of getting school
Right.
started. So, but there still appears to be 5 days of PD.
Yeah, so what we used to not do 5 days. We used to do 4 coming back. And what we heard is, because we're trying to get in our PD, our schools have PD, our system has PD, and teachers are like, we need time in our classrooms. So really, there's a day and a half there where it is their work days. I mean, where teachers are working and getting their classrooms ready. That was probably the loudest of everything we heard 4 years ago when I came in, was when we only had a 4-day startup and we didn't do Institute then either. So we made the decision, if we're going to do Institute, that we felt like that was important, and to get everybody under one roof, and we needed the 5th day there. And that's been a very positive thing for teachers to have a full work day. So and in fact, that was, AA said the most, July 31st is teacher work day. So we tell principals, don't do meetings, don't do faculty meetings, don't give them assignments. Let the teachers get their classrooms ready and their first week lesson plans ready on that day. So if we went to 4 days, basically what you would see is probably half of a day work day and then half a day PD day.
You think they can get an elementary person can get their room ready in 1 day and get all their lesson plans made?
I'm just saying that's,
What planet's he in?
That's usually the first 2 weeks of July.
but that's what we had coming in. We did not have a designated teacher work day when we had a 4-day prep.
Gotcha. I understand that.
And while I was honestly be okay with putting 6 there,
What's the purpose of the 2 professional days on the 2nd and 3rd of January, that Thursday, Friday? Is that, again, to get their classrooms ready again? I mean.
so you got to have 187 days that teachers work.
Okay.
So we've got to find 187. So that was just this year coming up, the way the calendar just hits, when Christmas hits and when January the 1st hits, it just makes it where we back in way earlier than we wanted to. Well, this is now we have enough, it just worked out enough, so this is a good starting time. But it usually, the semester ends, and before the kids come back for the new semester, we usually just have 1 PD day there, but we didn't want to bring kids back on Friday, the 3rd, and we could do that.
They probably wouldn't come.
Yeah. that'd be probably-
they may be ready to get back in school after Christmas, but we
Parents
thought.
may be ready for them to go back to school by then.
And we thought about bringing them back the second and the third, but then you don't have, I think not having a PD day before the second semester, I think that's needed. So what would add flexibility to do some other things would be if you cut into the fall break and Thanksgiving break, which we're cutting into Thanksgiving break with our teacher workday there, but not with student days.
But your Thanksgiving, you said, that's the week where students show up to school the least. That week.
We'll have 25 to 30% of our kids miss Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving. That when we looked back at our, the year before we did that, we looked back at our trends on that. We did it just because absenteeism we wanted our kids present. And what happens when a teacher has 30% of their kids out, they don't have a high quality lesson because they don't want folks to necessarily miss that. So you may get more kids, we're not necessarily doing anything today because there's going to be so many kids out. And that's how Take Your Child to Work Day is kind of going. It's snowballed into almost, we're not doing anything anyway. Now, we had some schools like Morris Mill did their state testing on Take Your Child to Work Day, and all theirs came. Just about, they had one of their highest attendance days of the year. So it's kind of, you double down on that, but we didn't necessarily. Schools could pick their testing days for their state testing.
Well, I think teachers really like fall break. I think it gives them a chance to kind of retool and get ready to go back and, hit it again. I don't know anybody that doesn't like fall break. Am I wrong? Angie, when did we get the most calls?
I'm going to say that the year the state legislature decided that we couldn't start until a certain time and we had to hack off fall break, I've never received as many emails outside of that event. Double busing, school shootings, your kid didn't play, when we changed from block to AB at Buckhorn, nothing met. Now, I will say that part of that was due to the fact that they did that so late in the game. You had a large population of people that already had cruises and
Plans, right.
vacations and large things planned, and now they were suddenly told in what, June? It was late.
And they thought it was us and not the state.
We're not having fall break now, so that was part of it. The other thing that happened with that, and I know Dr. Spivey, I'm sure Dr. Solly and I may get this wrong, but if I remember correctly, what happened then also was the next year when we tried to do it, we tried to, somehow finals got on the other side of Christmas, and that created utter chaos. So you have to finish finals before Christmas because people go in the military and scholarships and that kind of thing. You have to have those completed for those kids that are graduating early. So in order to get out before May 30 or Memorial.
The problem then was not only did we have a calendar issue for 187 days, but we also had a seat out requirement.
Yes.
That has since been waived, so that's why we had to push first semester after Christmas break. Was because kids had to be in their classroom.
But we couldn't start until after August 15th.
Correct, yeah. A later date made us push it back. We're not under that same guideline.
Yeah. So there are some changes to when that happened, but I think that you might be able, I don't know, people really like fall break, that's all I'm saying.
You could take more days in the beginning and put them after Memorial Day, and come the last week of May. Because, the 21st of May, that's early to get out. But when you
What are
do
you going to do
that,
with graduation?
when you do that, they would come back after graduation. But if you did that, see, second semester already has second semester already has 92 days, and if you do that, you really end up pushing exams back into January. So, see, first semester is already shorter than second semester. 86 days first semester, 92 second semester. So any day you take off the beginning of the year shortens your first semester time, unless you do exams in January. So,
Well, I will say that I have relatives that live outside of this area, and they're always shocked that we go back to school early. But they're also always in awe of the fact that on June 20th, when they're still going to school, it's a pretty cool deal that we're out already. So, I mean, it's kind of a half a dozen of one, six of the other. If you want fall break and you want Thanksgiving and you want 2 weeks at Christmas and you want to get out by Memorial Day, then you've got to somehow figure out how to push that into the time you have left. So I think if people are willing to start a big rally to say they'd like to give up fall break, then it's possible to start back later in the year, but I don't see that happening. And I do understand what it is for a teacher to have to go back in July. I understand. My mom, y'all know, is a school bus driver, and if you think school bus drivers don't have to go back and plan a route and everything else in order to start back that early, it's tough. But it's kind of like I tell my girls at work, sometime you got to come. I mean, it's got to be done.
We'll bring that back up for approval. If you see any major, is this okay? Any other?
Yeah, I guess we can shoot it out to the people now that it's in some form. I mean,
Right.
I know we had comments from them, but
Mhm.
to see that if this,
And it is better. I mean, it's better than starting it on the 1st of August like we are this year.
Right.
Now, are we at any risk of just putting it on the website and saying, and having a little comment board and saying,
But you can put it on Facebook if you want some feedback.
I'm not a big Facebook
why don't you
person
tweet
there.
it out?
Ms. Stender will be very excited that all the action we'll be getting on our metrics.
Well, maybe we
views
should
and
put it
shares.
on our school one and say, what y'all think? But you are correct, you don't get a large, you don't get a real good representation of what our community actually looks like.
Yeah,
in
because
that
sometimes
setting.
you may get 50 negative comments, but you might have 600 people that have liked it.
And they don't
They
count
didn't
because it's not a
comment, so,
comment.
How close is this to either Madison City or Huntsville's? I know Madison City doesn't do their fall break, they do a 4-day.
They end up getting rid of their fall
Yeah.
break. And they're not doing a full Thanksgiving break either, are they?
No, we're in line with Huntsville.
So we're in line with Huntsville.
Yeah. And that's another request we get frequently. Even if we are in line with Huntsville, you'll still get an email that says, how come you're not in line with Huntsville? It's amazing.
When does Madison start?
I do not know. Madison, we've always tried to have a meeting with the 3 systems. And when Dennis James was there under Dr. Fowler, we all 3 met. But Madison doesn't attend the meetings anymore. So we just, Huntsville City and Mr. Haygood and I meet, and we try and come up with the best plan for our 2 districts and move forward from there. And we usually let Madison know, and that's.
I will say that the people I know that attend Madison City schools, the parents, most of them are like, gosh, I wish we got a full week too. So I don't think that they just love having just a couple days. And from a parent standpoint, now,
They don't have it approved. They just have their 18, 19.
I don't know many teachers from that area. So we're going to get this back out to some of our folks to be able to, again, address whether they feel that their comments were heard and whether that's what they were trying to accomplish with those comments.
We'll do it.
All right. Next up is, oh, this is your agenda.
We're
Feel
moving
free.
along here. Let's see, we're discussion of financial guide updates. Table number 1.
We, it was brought to our attention, the per diem for reimbursement for meals has not been upgraded in 20-some years. So it's $10 per meal, and we're requesting, we'll bring to you in the near future, board meeting, request to move that per diem to $15.
How did you come up with 15?
We looked at a couple different options, 10 for breakfast, 15 for lunch, and 20 for dinner, and it all came out to about $45. We just figured we could keep consistent and say 15 per meal.
Going from 30 per diem per day to 45 per day, however it's distributed among the meals. Unless, and still is in there,
You're fine, no, you.
is actual receipts, maybe, be reimbursed. Prior permission from your supervisor to turn in your actual receipts as well. But if there are no receipts, the per diem, we're just asking that we can, and this is for all funding sources, it's the same for all employees, no matter if it's a Title I conference or whatever it might be. None of that's changing, but just after, I mean, that's still low, if you think about it.
Yes.
It's still very low. It's something we thought we could work with and would be doable. And that's why we changed it, just to keep it simple rather than do it per meal, like 10, 15, 20. We looked at that at first, but that would be confusing. If someone, at the conference, you know, if they give you or they provide your breakfast, then you would turn in, you would say, 2 meals that day, rather than having to say it was lunch and dinner, or it was breakfast and dinner, you know, just to keep it simple, going from $30 per diem to 45 with it going from 10 per meal to 15.
But it won't be a per day diem if they're serving meals.
It's per meal.
It's per meal.
That's why
So-
we're trying to keep it the same amount per meal.
Is there a reason why we use the GSA mileage rate, but we don't use the GSA meals and expenses? I know there's a cost difference probably to use the GSA.
You're talking about the federal government rate?
Yes.
We do use that with actual receipts, like if you're in Washington or DC or Orlando, it's not to exceed that rate. So we do have that in our policy, and that would remain.
They just need a receipt.
You just need the
If it's
receipts in
over.
order to get that rate.
Yes, sir. But this per diem, 15 per meal.
That's just automatic if you don't. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes we have situations where we may have a large group, like 40, 50 teachers going to a conference. The manpower it takes to kind of go through all those receipts is pretty extensive, so that's the reason we put the 50 per diem.
The state just up theirs, Governor Ivey sent a memo out yesterday, up in theirs to $85 a day for state employees.
For food?
No, it's
For
not just,
travel.
theirs operates a little differently. Being
Oh,
a former
sorry.
state employee, my husband's a state employee. The per diem for them has been 75 forever, even when I was a state examiner. However, that includes your hotel and your meals. But they also allow you an extra day on the end of your trip to compensate for a little bit of that, but it's still way under. But that includes their hotel and your meals.
I got you.
Gotcha.
$85 a day for hotel and meals?
That's what it's been 75
Is this the time to bring that up?
forever.
We're gonna need the travel day coming home if we go back next year, because it took me 8 hours to get home. It took me 2 hours to go from Prattville to Calera because of whatever. I was, Glenn wanted to know if I was ever coming home. Well,
Could have waited that extra day, I had no problem on Monday.
I know, see, that's what I'm saying. Let's stay to Monday. Okay.
Any other suggestions on that? All right, we'll bring that up for your approval with the financial guide, because that's part of the financial guide.
Okay.
It's in the
So
policies.
we'll be updated.
Financial policies and procedures.
All right, item D, this is item added on the Sparkman, just an update on the Sparkman process. Do you want me to let Carrie give an overview, or you just want to, Carrie, you want to talk about where we are? With no prep at all, on the fly. So we've been, I will say this, Carrie and I, and Mr. Shaw, the principal, and Sherry and Dave, we've all met with the architect at some point in time, just looking at different options. We're looking at kind of different phases. We're kind of piecing those things together. And again, this hadn't been approved. We sent it off to the plaintiffs to kind of get an idea from them on the green light, and then we're going to bring it back to you for approval. You want to talk about just the different pieces?
Yes, sir.
that are gonna
We're looking at this project, hopefully it'll be around January, finish the design and get it approved. And anyway, it's going to be a 2-year project, and it's a lot to do with the phasing. On the Sparkman High School side of the campus, we're going to enlarge the serving area, which is probably one of our biggest complaints, and change the dining area up a little bit, make it flow a little bit better, and open up a little bit better. We're going to work on the counselor wing, which we recognize this year they got another counselor, for instance, which they greatly appreciate. So we're going to improve that area also. And then the band and the choral will move on the 9th grade campus side, all this being one campus, and then it'll actually sit where the front parking lot is currently, and there'll be an auditorium, band, and choral room sitting there. We will also work out a space for ROTC so they can have competition with their air rifles, and it's a combination classroom classroom and rifle range together. And then we'll reroute the traffic so that we'll have a better drop-off on the 9th grade side, on the north side of the school that will work with an attendance and an SRO area, so everybody will enter at that location. We think traffic will flow much faster and quicker, and we'll have longer stack lanes and longer egress lanes. On the Sparkman High School side, we'll be entering off of Jeff Road, bringing them all around a backside loop of the building into a nice big canopy area. And what's really nice is keeping the traffic kind of on the exterior perimeter that's moving with parents and stuff. All the students parking are coming in, and they park on the inside and they walk in towards the school. So it makes it a bit safer. And we're doing a whole lot of safety improvements. Not to go into a whole lot of detail, but for you to enter through the attendance area or the front office, or actually from any area of the building, it'll be a lot more secure, and we'll have things in place that'll protect the children during the day and getting in and out of the car also. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now, and it's very fluid.
Field situation.
So,
The field situation.
the field. So what we're looking at here also is on the Sparkman 9th grade side, look at the option of building an additional field up above the existing parking lot. We think it's flat. We've done some board tests up there years ago when we're looking at moving the road, and so we think we can put a field up there and also create a full-size soccer, football, regulation field up above there. The band already has one field on the north side of that school currently, and then we're also looking at taking the existing soccer field, spinning it 90 degrees, so it will be a regulation football, soccer field, and then also, of course, the stadium. You know, depending on whether we go into a turf or not, we'll also have that stadium, and we're hoping along that lines a little bit about doing y'all approved the bleacher bid. Oh, you haven't approved the bleacher bid yet, but you approved to look at doing bleachers in your capital plan. We're hoping to dress that up a little bit too in that area. And it should present a lot better, and it'll give us the option there of having possibly as many as 4 fields. And so that's where we are right now on our outside fields for athletics and also for PE.
I thought they didn't have a soccer field right now. They play on the football field.
What they have now.
Yeah, what Kerry's calling the soccer field is a football practice field, and it's only 80 yards long,
Well,
so.
they don't play soccer out there.
No, so.
Oh, no.
that's-
Yeah, that is not, that
So-
football practice is subpar at best for practice, much less a soccer field.
So they have a 100-yard field, football field that they play football games on, the football team practices on, the 9th grade team practices and plays on, the soccer team practices and plays on every day, that game field. They also practice on the football practice field that's only about 80 yards long. But we can flip that field and get a full one there, and there's so much traffic on the game field. I still think the best option is to turf it. That's one of the things we'll bring up for you guys to kind of decide, because we've got a lot of our middle schools play football games at their high schools. They could get on there. It's all, you don't have to cancel a game when it rains or a practice. That happens in JV and freshman games just to save the field. There's no field that sees more traffic than that one. And you would have an additional practice field up top. The other thing that was considered, if we didn't turf the game field, would be to convert the band field and kind of extend it to another full-length field, just to give them an extra field, because the turf you could get on all the time and not wear it down. But that field, I think that kind of the biggest, one of the things is that field is there because the band boosters invested into it and built it out of nothing. But if they did it, it would essentially be a band field in the fall and a soccer field in the spring, to be able to give some relief to the game stadium there. So that's kind of where we're looking at on the fields. And so we're going to need at some point soon be able to get the architects to kind of figure out, or if we're going to turf, because if we're going to turf, that's one field we don't have to do, which saves a little bit of money there. But if we're not going to turf, I know that's something we've talked a little bit about. If we're not going to turf, we're going to need a 4th field, which we can fit and we can get. It's just going to, the issue is that others have created that field, kind of taking it over.
Kerry did a great job of giving the bird's eye view of the plan, but have Angie and Mary Louise and Nathan had a chance to see the plan that Sherry and I and you have seen so far?
Did y'all not get that visual from Kerry explaining all that?
It's a great visual, but I'm not too sure you could really.
I know
when
what
he talks
color
about the
shirt Carrie
open.
has on. That's
Yeah.
about
When he
what I'm
talks about the
visualizing.
open air cafeteria, I mean, it was kind of hard to visualize looking at the plan. It's hard to visualize what I'm talking about. Is there a way that these three can get down to the architect in the next,
Or can he present it here?
or present it here? I don't know if you can do
Other
that.
people-
Where are they located?
The downtown?
Oh, yeah,
We
I can
could
go there
present-
any day.
Yeah.
We could present it here.
Just so that they have a better feel for it, so when we discuss this stuff, it makes it a little bit more sense in their head, because it really is amazing based on what we have today, what the architect is planning for traffic improvements, for the safety improvements, and all the other things, that it really does make good sense when you see it. Add additional parking spaces, but I think you all need to see it.
So they already have it, rendered as to what it would look like and all that?
Blueprint, yeah.
Blueprint.
Drawing, but even the drawings are good.
Yes, sir. This is the first schematic, so it's all plain and clear on the plan. I mean, it's still pretty rough, it's still fluid on how we're moving and sizing everything, but it shows you the idea of what the layout will be and how it will flow. One thing, talking athletic fields, Monrovia Middle, of course, plays up on the high school. Sparman Middle Field is by far our worst field that they try to compete on. We're taking down the visitor side bleachers hardly don't even exist. We're just getting those torn down. There might be some opportunity if Sparman Middle starts playing all their games on the high school field to get them, that'd be just a pure practice field, not have to put any more money into their concessions, their bleachers, their press box. The stuff was put in the 60s, and maybe not even the 50s. And it just needs a lot of update with, as we go through and look at all our security and all of our maintenance issues with our bleachers and stuff. I know Hesgrid High School took down their press box, but this press box at Sparman Middle, for instance, is in pretty rough shape. And I think it might be a good idea maybe for us to evaluate how we want to look at, even though we're not planning on doing anything on middle school campuses, athletic-wise necessarily, is to look at how we can accommodate getting them off of that field up to the high school full-time.
And you
It
could
would-
get
It
both
would
of
save
them.
money long-term, save quite a bit of money, because they don't have the money, and middle school don't make enough money to have a game-quality field. And just to take care of practice is tough.
Just to clarify, that'd be both middle schools could play up there if it was turf, and they usually play on Tuesday nights. Is that right? Thursday?
Where does Monrovia Middle play now?
That's Sparkman.
They play at Sparman
Because they already
currently.
played.
Yeah. When you were talking phases,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that the practice fields, the field upgrade, that is probably like phase 3. If it's if it's 3 phases, we're phase 3. I mean, everything else should take priority over that.
Yeah, yes, sir, it does. Some of the, like, when we get into some of the reworking of the traffic, at that time, we'll have to move the practice football field as currently is. It'll have to be moved and spun before we get into that final drawing there.
Noted.
But it is, yeah, our first movement is to try to go ahead and secure some entrances and make it safer. Right off the bat at the 9th grade and also at the high school both. High school's more of a temporary because we're going to possibly move some entrances totally there. But that is definitely the first phase. It's getting all that set up and getting their traffic flow to a point that makes it safe so that we can start construction. And we'll start the majority, we'll start actually on the 9th grade side to begin with, and then move into the high school side. But there'll be something going on at both locations for 2 years. It'll just be big phases of what we do.
You know, on the fields, you would need, if we're going to do 4 fields, you would need to build the 2 new fields so that you'd have some fields to be on while the other 2 fields get.
And you have to improve, yeah.
That's true.
There is only, and I'm sorry, I should have brought this up first. The one problem with the 4-field scenario, putting the one that's to the west above the second parking lot at Sparkman 9th grade up on top, is if that road ever gets rerouted, that's where the road gets rerouted.
But
On
we'd
the
be
west side of
running
the campus.
field, though, not necessarily a stadium.
Right, yeah.
It'd just be through a field.
It'd be just a field. But it's just a consideration.
We had the opportunity to talk to a vendor at our conference with turf. And, she said that, 8 to 10 years was the life of a turf field. Where on earth in 8 to 10 years are we going to get the money to redo a turf field?
Well, a vendor's telling you
What's
that.
the plan?
It's kind of like when you get your oil change, you can do it every 3 months, they'll tell you, but in your owner's manual, it says every 6. So, I mean, there's not,
You mean we'll have to replace it every 6 years?
no, I think about every probably 15 to 20 years.
Well, I think the vendor would have told you that if, you know, if that was the case, don't you?
Do we
No.
know of any turf
The
fields
vendor's
that
going
have
to want
been
to sell
around
it
for-
every 10 years.
Do we know of any turf fields that have lasted 15 years?
I do, yes.
That play
I'll go
that
find
much.
some.
You go, Karen.
Well, I have that.
They
in my
I mean,
bag.
I know the
would
quality
imagine
that they're
with a
making them
turf
now
field,
is
there's
higher
warranties
quality.
associated, and those warranties extend.
Yeah.
Maybe 8, maybe the span that you speak of, you go over 10, 15 years, something happens, you're on your own, so to speak, to figure out what you're gonna do with that turf field.
Yeah.
I didn't make it up.
I know they do
just
tell
found
you
it.
8 to 10.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you
And
did.
30 to 40 degrees
Saying that's good,
hotter
it's good marketing.
than 30 to 40 degrees hotter than a grass field.
I thought she said 40 to 50.
I think 30 to 40. Well, we can say 40 to 50. We're not the vendor. But, I mean, I was shocked at that, you know what I mean?
I've got a list of schools that have gone turf in Alabama, and there's probably about 30 fields right now, and I can, you know, I've talked to those superintendents, and I'll let y'all talk to their board members if you just kind of want to see if everyone that's gone turf, they are glad they did, and
They've
they
got
are
more
not
money
looking
than
back.
us, don't they?
It's not about, I mean, if you think about how much Sparkman's band has put into a 60-yard field,
How much is it?
how much do you think they put in over the years?
About 100 grand.
100,000. Okay, that's as opposed to a million.
Yeah, but you're maintaining that. You're not putting, I mean, they're maintaining a field that's not even 100 yards.
Is that about right?
Now, I will say the vendor said that it costs
No.
about $30,000 a year to maintain a natural field that is of regulation size. So over 8 years, that's, if I can do math, which I think I can, it's $240,000.
Yeah.
So if you add that to $400,000, which is how much a natural field she said costs, that's still below $1 million for 8 years. And you still have a field at the end of 8 years. That's not 40 degrees hotter. Now, I say all that to say, I think that what is going on here is we've heard your side and we've heard a vendor at a event side, and we probably do need to make sure that we have talked to people who've actually done this, people who've actually played on it, and someone who has actually gone through the process, because this is a huge shift from what we do normally. And I'm not saying change is bad and that we shouldn't consider a huge shift, but I don't think we go into it with he said and she said, because she happened to be a she, and just kind of go blindly into it. I mean, I don't even buy a pair of shoes like that.
Just don't last more than 10 years.
No, not for work.
Well,
Is not Decatur, did Decatur not put in a turf field?
They did.
So it'd be interesting to go over there and see it.
They had some problems on that turf field as
Didn't
well.
it?
But
Like
anybody
what?
that just put it in wouldn't be the person to talk to, it'd be the person that put it in 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, I'd also like
Just
to
to see
see
it.
what the install was like, too.
Okay, but not
Yeah,
only.
but no, I'd also like to
Yeah.
talk to some of these people you say have had one for 15 years. I'd like to know what that cost was over a 15-year period.
Well, and the technology is vastly different now from turf 8
Yes,
years ago.
She showed us the mineral rock that goes
Oh,
below the
really?
rub crumb.
Oh, well, okay.
And they're all kind of different stuff you can put in there.
You get
You
different
can get
colors.
Good stuff or bad stuff, and I figured we'd be getting bad stuff because we couldn't afford the other. So, you know, I just got some,
I think you get the good stuff and you do it right. It gets so much traffic. And if you ask your principals or football coaches, say, hey, how about let the soccer team practice and play games on your football field? The reason the other fields have lasted that are grass are because nobody gets on them in the off-season. I mean, and nobody gets on it hardly during the season. I mean, for a football team to practice and play on their game field, that's almost unheard
But
of.
we
And
wouldn't be doing that if we created these new fields.
that is correct. 4 fields, they would still, yeah, I mean, that would be the other option. So either would work. But
Well,
I mean,
and
you could do that. Somebody would have to.
I don't think anybody's negating that your argument is good. I think we have a duty to perform the due diligence to make sure that we've gotten all the information. Because as much as I think you're a pretty smart guy, you're not a turf expert, are you?
I've talked to those that
His
have.
haircut.
Yes, well, I talk to doctors every day, like the whole day, and
I
it
can
still
bring you
doesn't
some
make
turf
me.
experts. Hey,
I also have slept in a holiday.
just to note, half of the World Cup game stadiums this year are played on turf.
But we just went over the numbers. The numbers don't make sense. You spend $1 million versus 500,000.
But you're also going to be spending on a fourth field. If you turf, you don't need four. You keep your three and let the band keep that field. So if you turf, well, the justification of the turf is that's one less field you have to build. If you don't do it, you build 4 fields. And guess what? That's going to be great.
4 fields is what they need.
Yeah, 4 fields, 4 grass fields is fine.
Because then the kids can be there at home, be home before 9 or 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah, but 3 fields, if one of them's turf, is equal to 4 fields. So, you know what I'm saying?
The cost of that field to turf it.
But the cost
What's
to
the
build a
cost?
4th field too. And so it's, if it's equal, and athletics and schools have a choice between doing turf and grass, they're going turf 100% of the time.
I need to see that, though. I need to see what turf looks like going this way and this way. Not turf, but when you're talking about 4 fields that go this way and you're
Yeah,
spending this one.
we'll do that.
I need to see it, and I need documentation of, this is how much it actually costs, not the pretty little girl at the vendor booth, or, you know.
And the 1.1, and the money that the $1 million that we talked about for the main field, that also included the track.
It was 1.6 if it went to the track, it was 1.1 prior to the track. But the company that sent us that quote, also in their advertisement letter, they said they do 22 of the NFL football stadiums. Don't know exactly what quality they're comparing us to there, but that was their comment. But
yeah,
if
they
we-
got resources and money to maintain those fields, and they got, access. I mean, that's, I
Big
understand.
fans.
I mean, they can put it in right, but the continuing maintenance of it is a concern for me. Are we gonna be able to sustain a turf field 5, 6, 10 years down the road, or we're gonna have to completely do another turf field?
To be one that sat on the lawnmower during the summer, during fall break, during Christmas break, and then you're turning it over hoping the next sports season's going to take care of it like you did. When you talk about the maintenance, there's so much human hours going into a grass field. That does not go
Well,
into
for
a
the
turf
cost, you
field.
could almost dedicate a staff member to maintain 4 turf fields for the.
Yeah, I got
Now we're providing jobs.
I got designated. Yeah, I mean, that's the
We're not here to
problem.
fix your childhood.
I'm just saying, we've got assistant coaches and teachers that instead of spending time working on their lessons, grading papers, spending time with their families, they're on the lawnmower cutting. We got a chance to
Pay
come.
for that.
They do get.
They get a supplement.
Not during the
for that.
season, they don't.
Can we get the architect? I mean, can we
Yeah,
get the
I'll get him
architect
in
and
next,
bring him
in July.
here?
We'll see if he can come to our work session or
Well,
a
if you
regular
want to
session.
And
I
as a
could probably tell.
person who has sat many quarters at Sparkman Middle's football field, smelling the
Bless you.
lagoon when they
Bless you.
still had one, evidently on the bleachers that have rotted out, is that field just beyond repair? I mean, it's down in a bowl. It looks like would be a pretty good place for a field.
It's not beyond repair, the field itself. I mean, they use it for practice, and they have a,
The field is in
Dressing
good
room.
shape because there's not a whole lot of traffic on it. It's better than the game field at Sparkman. But what happens, that steep bowl going down, there's a huge runoff. And I walked out there with Russ over here after a big rain one time, and it just muddies all the bottom 2 rows. The press box looks like it's about to fall down any moment. And my attorney probably advised me not to say that up here, but it needs some major work. I mean, it's
Well, I
not the
understand
grass.
that, but I mean, that is, with a little money spent, somebody spending a little money there, that would be a viable field, right?
for practice. I think what we have to do to improve it, to actually keep games on it, the bleachers are, some of the substructure has washed downhill. And then
Isn't the home side concrete?
Yes.
part of it.
On dirt.
Isn't
The other-
it
the other-
very,
the other
isn't
part of
it
it is
very
on the
similar to
hill.
Madison County Elementary's stadium?
That's a good question. Madison County Elementary's, what could be a middle school stadium, is actually not in horrible shape.
It's not.
They don't play their middle school games there, they don't maintain it and all that, but it's actually much better. The high school has a lot more seats, it's a lot more run down, it's used a lot harder. ADA access to the concession stand is subpar at best. And whenever we touch any of it, we have to touch all of it to meet code. It was fantastic in the 60s and 70s, even in the 80s and 90s.
You're better off spreading a
I
blanket
wasn't
on the
sitting there in
hillside
the
at Sparkman Middle
60s.
than you are sitting on the bleachers.
But to answer your question, the field itself is great for practice, it can be used, and it's irrigated, and,
So where are they gonna play this year, coming year?
but they play their games there until they have an issue usually, but instead of us, we need to address, if we're gonna have to address things, we might, at some point, we're gonna have to address doing minimal upgrades there to meet some type of code and guidelines to give them safe seating and ADA access. And this is just something
Well, you-
that you've inherited.
And you're already working the field house issues at Sparkman. I have not been out there in a while to see that, but I know that you've been addressing the field house issues, which were atrocious.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We stalled up a little bit with getting some approvals through the state, but we are addressing their dressing rooms, that's correct.
Well, you can spread it out. Big
When Mr. Nola comes and speaks, the good news is, he's the architect for Austin and Decatur High School both. So he's been through this process with the fields, and he also did James Clemens. So he's got good information on building fields and what they've done in artificial turf. So he'll be a good source to ask that
Madison
question.
Stadium is not turf, correct?
I'm sorry, who?
Madison Stadium is not turf.
no.
Their practice fields at James Clemens and Bob Jones are turf. But
Field.
The stadium itself.
the stadium itself is not, correct?
Right, that's correct. And from my understanding, is that someone takes care of the stadium?
The stadium gets in terrible shape in the end of the year because they play on it. Their freshmen play on it and their varsity games play on it, and at the Sparkman game down there, when I went last year, it was all beat up.
You know, we do have an advantage as the season goes on, and Ms. Starr, remember this, 2 or 3 years ago at Madison County High School, they're in the playoffs. Of course, we had a torrential rain at that time, but they're hard to maintain a whole year, especially if you make them to the playoffs, and it's turned off a little bit cold and the weather and stuff, and you don't get the growth on them.
That was a drainage problem, I would say.
This started there.
Well, and they'll cancel practice games. I mean, if it's a Monday night game, it's a JV freshman game, there have been many a games canceled because of some rain. I can't say as a coach you don't hate that, but
At Madison County that night, there was a guy who lost his cell phone up there where the visitors' buses park up by the railroad track. And it was found the next day down where you buy your ticket. That was a drainage problem.
sounds like it drained well.
And even Glenn Stowe wanted to go home that night because he was so wet. What do you mean go home?
All right.
That memo that came out today said that if you made the track 8 lanes, that you would have to elongate it, and that would make the soccer field not work anymore in the football field, right?
Right, I should put a footnote with that. What it says, it's regulation soccer, is wider than football, of course. But for the state, and Lavelle or Tim can do a better job explaining it, the soccer plays on regulation football fields, and it meets the state requirement from them playing those fields. What we were saying was we wouldn't have the width for a soccer width, but just like they do now, they play on a standard football field width. We'd still have that opportunity, it just wouldn't be soccer width that you would want. to
You'd
have
be no
that.
worse off than you are today.
Oh, no, right, no, not at all.
All right. Well, would y'all like for Mr. Nola to come do a presentation? Would y'all like, because it is a pretty big table that you spread out on, or would you rather go down to his office and kind of do a Q
I
and A
wouldn't
there?
mind being able to look at it where I can ask my stupid questions like, what is that?
Could we do both? Because.
And then have him come.
If you
Because
like.
sometimes it's just nice to be able to, when he's doing his presentation, to have had the precursor of knowing what he's pointing out and that sort of thing. Because it is a little cumbersome here to be able to see sometimes. It is for me anyway.
Let me set up a meeting, let me send y'all some requests for some meeting dates that would fit in some of your schedules, 1 or 2 at a time, and then get down there and look at it all, and then come have him do a presentation after we get all the thoughts together. And then he can come make a presentation to the board. That works well with everybody. That way you can ask whatever questions you want to ask.
Well, that said, I know we spent the most time talking about the field thing. Either one of those options is really good for the school. 4 fields would be great. 3 fields, 1 on turf would be great. The other stuff that we're doing, though, is what's going to be a game changer for that campus and for the other learning spaces. Those athletics, that's part of that instructional program and is valuable to the school, but it is it's an exciting time. Do you want to take a break before we go to the administrative items? Or recess, or wait a minute?
You still already did.
Oh, well, in that case.
Or do you want to
Yeah,
just?
why don't we, would y'all mind starting back at a quarter till, 10 minutes? Use the restroom, wash your hands,
Sure.
that sort of thing.
Sure.
All right, the Madison County Board of Education is now called back into session. We're ready to begin administrative items.
Here we go. I recommend approval of the FY 2018 financial budget amendment.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question? Would you like to give a brief, or is it pretty? Are people at home, if they can hear? I don't think they can hear
I
you.
sent an email to explain to you the major areas where we're
Mhm.
going to be adjusting. Since in June of every year, we submit to the state our final budget amendment for the current fiscal year, and to pretty much focus on federal programs, how we'll end the school year, or the fiscal year, with the new school year beginning. We're hiring new people, so we need to make some expenditure adjustments for federal programs as well as OSR, preschool program grants. So that was the first major area that we do every year. Then we also officially flexing our textbook allocation in order to cover our teacher computers that we purchased this year. We received prior approval, so I know this will go through. This will go through. So we have purchased those, and this is just to formally flex that money, changing the object expenditure code. And then lastly, we received school districts received a supplemental appropriation from the State Education Trust Fund for fiscal year 18. It can be carried over, as I explained, to fiscal year 19. Our allocation is $1 million, and we're required to go ahead and apply for that money. As soon as they approve our application, we receive the funds. So we applied in the 3 areas I mentioned in your email to cover our building insurance. For this year, it's almost $500,000. And that will free up those general fund dollars that were designated for the building insurance, and we can carry those over. Or what we want to do first is, of course, use that money to help us cover the 2.5% raise to start at the beginning of the contract year. And then, like I said, any excess funds that aren't used for whatever we decide to do with summer projects that some are underway, or with safety measures that we take prior to September 30th, anything left over in that pocket of funds we can carry over, and we can use it in the next fiscal year. Also, we can use it for transportation, so we allocated $261,000 to cover the purchase of 3 buses. Again, we ordered and purchased some this year, and we could use that money to free up local funds, or we can designate that for buses, which is what we probably need to do for next fiscal year. But we have that option. We just need to get our application in right now.
Gotcha.
And the lastly is, Mr. Massey, we talked about the $261,000 remaining to apply for that for school security measures, other property services. So we know once our assessment's complete, we'll know how that money can be used and spent. But once we apply for it, we're good to go. And again, the state money, as well as any local funds that we free, can be carried over.
So the state calls that Advancement in Technology Fund, but it really has nothing to do with either one of those.
No, ma'am. I mean, well, the categories where you can spend it does include technology. It includes several, just pretty much any general operating purpose, rather except for salaries. But that's misleading. That's the fund they're pulling from.
It was a political game. Last year, the state could have allotted it to us. It was already in the budget from the Rolling Reserve Act. If they get so much over a certain amount to keep our reserve, it goes back to the schools. The schools' money, we get it. It was designed to go for all technology upgrades, but that was not this past session, but the one before it. But on the last day of the session, the Senate wanted the House to allocate more money to go from public to private schools to expand the Accountability Act. And the House voted not to do that. And so in the Senate, they decided not to allocate $41 million to public schools. And they kept it for an entire budget year. So with this budget year coming forward, that money was still there. As soon as our state government allocated it, we would get it. By that time, the conversation went from technology to, well, let's allow school systems to use this be more flexible with this, because there may be some that need safety upgrades with that. So even though it's called a technology fund, they're allowing us to do a couple of other things with it.
This is one time or?
Yeah. It was one time, yeah.
It depends on the rolling reserve, what monies were left over. Hopefully, we'll see it again, but it's not guaranteed. It's just a one-time supplement to this year's appropriation.
Any further question or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, I recommend approval of the following bids attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding bids? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I recommend the board award the bid for New Market School roofing replacement and repairs to Porter Roofing Contractors, Inc. for $313,000.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Carrie, is it normal for the bids to be that drastically different?
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say,
that is major.
That's huge.
Will we have a cost adjustment on, potentially on this one that we approved?
Yeah, that's a great question. We never had it separated for this value before. If you notice on there, I believe we have 7 bidders, 2 showed up. It's the economy. The economy's gonna kill us because it's really ramping up.
Okay, so the
and
economy is good.
Economy is great.
It makes it tough on us. So my friend is actually a bidder, he didn't bid any of this. He does other projects that have nothing to do with us. But he talked about how there's so much going on right now that when they get a bid, they really don't have time to work it. But they'll just throw out some ridiculous number just to see if they'll get it. So you have 5 folks that didn't even show up, and I think one just threw out a crazy number.
That's what, we actually had 7 at the pre-bid, so they were good viable bidders. Sometimes people get a bid package, don't even show up, but they actually showed up and they spent the 2 hours walking to the school, getting in the attic, that sort of thing. So, and that's what happened there. It just tells me the second bidder has a ton of work, and he was hoping the first bidder had a ton of work too. And that's kind of where they laid out at. It came in at a great price. Couldn't ask for a better price on it, but that's the reason we have that wide, we never had that wide of a spread before. But our last 2 mechanical bids that I brought to you, both only have 2 bidders also. And so we're gonna see a pattern where we get fewer and fewer bidders and they don't have to bid quite as top. We have talked to this contractor, and verbally, he said that's a good bid, he'll honor it. And so we're getting contracts together, but until we get the contract in hand next week, we're hoping for the best, but if we go ahead and prove it, then we'll move forward with that action. And if not, then it would go to the second lowest competitive bidder, or we can negotiate. But everybody's just busy.
So you don't anticipate seeing a whole lot of change orders on this, that's gonna ramp that up? That's a pretty honest bid.
We think that's a pretty honest bid. It's fairly straightforward. They did have to get in the attic. We're gonna have to do some structural work inside the attic where they had a fire several years ago. There's a few other things we've added to it, some bad lumber, but we don't expect any change out of to raise that price.
This is from hail damage, right?
No, this is actually just what is. The insurance company is gonna pay for the shingles, the roof to come off, and to have be replaced. What they won't pay for is any of the structural damage that exists already, some of the gutters, some of the bad wood and that sort of thing. And we'll get a breakdown of all those materials, and so insurance will pay hopefully for around 80% of this price. Great news there is we have $520,000 in the budget on the capital plan. And our budgets come from a compilation of the engineer doing the design, from local bids, and from contractors who bid locally. So at 520, it came in great at 313 there. So that money goes right back into the capital improvement fund to use on other projects as we go. So far, we have 15 projects that we've gotten quotes on, for the Buckhorn Middle, Sparkman, the gymnasium, gym units, and that sort of thing. And out of the 13 bids we've got, or contracts in place, only 1 came in over budget. So that's pretty good right now. And we hope that we can get these other bids in October, and hope to try to stay under budget on those also that are coming in. So things are going up, but the good news is we're kind of on the front end of it, and so hopefully it won't be too painful for us.
Are you familiar with this company and their work, or?
Yeah, we pre-qualify everybody. You get burnt once and you learn that lesson. So they're a good company. They have a back. So we pre-qualify them financially. They have to do so many jobs that relate to government work. They have to be in business so many years. It's a good company, and they'll do a good job for us.
And this is the entire roof, correct? We're not doing part of a roof or a section. This is the whole roof.
This is the entire main building roof, the media center roof, the small boiler room roof, and what we call the Schubert building roof. Those are all the shingled roofs on that campus will have a new shingled roof.
So this is a shingle roof, you're not doing a metal roof?
Right, right, yes, ma'am. We're going back with shingles because of cost. We thought it'd be better to go back with shingles. Plus, the architectural value of this building, it's nice to have shingles on this building.
Is there any further discussion concerning the bid for the New Market School roof? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Carrie, and Mr. Evans for getting the insurance company out there.
I recommend the following contracts for services as attached.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding contracts for services? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Recommend approval of the 3 different SRO memorandums of understanding between the Madison County Sheriff's Office and Madison County Schools.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question?
I just have one. I was going through this. Okay, so the time period is 1 July through 30 June every year, correct?
Yes.
For our 12-month person.
For Deputy Smith.
For Deputy Smith?
It's our
12-month. Okay, and everybody else is?
Through the end
And
of the
this-
TASRA conference.
Okay.
We pay through that, and then they start back, their contract, where we pick back up is the first day of school with students.
Got it.
Is there any further question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following personnel items and the addendum as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Well, with that, one of those happens to be, I'm glad to announce, is Mr. Tim Solly is our Assistant Superintendent of Instruction and Academic Accountability. Very excited about what this is going to mean for our school system. And appreciate the board allowing me to kind of do some restructuring in the organizational chart. But I tell you, Tim has contributed so much to the school district over a long period of time. There are a lot of good applicants there, and it was nationwide. But I don't think there's a better person over instruction in the state than him. And it's what he's kind of given for our school system and provides our students and mentorship for principals and all that is it's exciting to be able to going to get to have him in this role. So congratulations to him. All right, next up, I recommend approval of the 2-year probationary contracts for Rhonda Booth and Tracy Ray.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, I recommend the following supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I have a few transfer requests. If you guys want to discuss these, we can go to executive session if you need more time or have any questions. Can I make the recommendation now, or do you want to just move to?
I think because it's discussing children and we have pending litigation, I would, certification for both. There was one that, I don't know, it said see attached, and I couldn't find the attachment, so I would like to be able to
Okay.
see the attached. So if we can entertain a motion to move into executive session for number 1 regarding discussion of children in the system, and number 2 pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or question? We have the correct certification. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we return, Nathan, we will vote on the transfers and then motion to adjourn. So if anybody is,
Closing.
Question on the August board date, if we could move that.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Ms. O'Bannon had a question.
What was the?
Yeah, sorry.
From August 16th.
You didn't think we looked before now, did you?
It's okay.
So you're asking to move it from the 16th to the 23rd?
Correct.
I have no problem with that.
When is the other one in August? Or is there
The
just-
16th.
We have the August 2nd, the first meeting, and then this was, the second meeting then would be the 23rd. That would work together.
Can you send out all those meeting dates?
Yeah, because you set us up some calendar invites, Dr. Minsky.
I will take care of
We'll
it.
get-
Any spare time, you'll get that done.
In his sleep or something.
Where are we going?
You want to just stay here? Or would you like to go in my office?
Is the Sanford class going on?
I think they're,
If so, then it's probably best to go in your office too, because we are talking about kids.
would you like me to check on them?
That'd be great.
If not,